Call of the Wild Answered by William MacMillan. Coffee Break Collection 32, Wilderness. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This recording by William Jones, Bonita Springs, Florida. Call of the Wild Answered. The low, squat-looking cedars hung down, overburdened with more than their fair amount of snow. Around each clump of ash and every funny-looking stump, the cold north wind had brushed and whisked the fluffy snow into beautiful little ridges and hollows. The bush was still, with that awesome silence so great in the northern Quebec woods. Though it was only early afternoon, no sun was visible, but in January, who needs bright sun? Certainly not the trapper, for sun kept the wily fur bears basking in its ever-welcome rays. There was a crunch, crunch. The overburdened fur in the far corner of the glade was violently shaken, and there strode into the clearing a husky, well-built man of 50 or thereabouts. Clean-cut and strong, Jean Tremblay, trapper and hunter, cut a splendid figure as he swung on his way over the almost invisible trail, the lift and swing of his snow-covered snowshoes making a dreary, lonesome sound in the wonderful silence. For 5 hours Jean had been on his trap line, and he was now nearing the finish of his 15-mile walk. That his luck was fair was plain to see, for hanging from his cincture flesh was 1 dark marten, 2 fine fishers, 1 wolf, and 5 splendid minks. 1 more trap, then home to the campfire, warmth, and a meal. No matter how long a man has been hunting, no true sportsman can approach a set trap without experiencing some degree of excitement. Thus our friend Jean, though he had hunted and trapped for the best part of his life, drew in his breath and made his way cautiously to his trap. Suddenly, a slight sound from that direction made him pause, with 1 snowshoe in the air. Drawing back a pace, Jean shifted the belt of skins around his waist, tightened his grasp on his gun, and softly crept around the intervening low bushes. And there, securely caught in a cunningly laid trap, was a huge female wolverine, the devil of the north. Ask any trapper of the far north how many wolverines he has caught, and he will probably tell you stories that will make you gasp. Of tremendous size she was, but caught in the cruel jaws of the powerful trap, her great strength availed her naught. She made an inspiring picture to the delight of Jean as she snarled and growled and tore at her bonds. By her side crouched a small wolverine, no larger than a large-sized cat. It crept close up to its infuriated mother and eyed the man's approach with mild curiosity. Jean made short work of the mother, and after some difficulty secured the little fellow. Resetting the trap, the woodsman continued on his way with the large skin swinging at his belt with the others, and the young animal tucked under his blanket coat. Reaching the cabin, Tremblay dropped his belt upon the floor with a sigh of relief, for a spell of mild weather had made snowshoeing difficult. As for the wolverine, he wandered around the small place, making himself at home. True to the reputation of his kind, nosing under everything and in every corner. For of all animals, the wolverine is the most marvelously curious. Weeks went by, and Same Carcajou, Carcajou being French for wolverine, became a great favorite with the neighboring half-breeds in the nearby settlement. To the lonely living woodsman, the wolverine proved himself a good comrade, often following Jean around like a dog. Night after night, in the long hours, Tremblay would sit with his feet on the top of the little stove, his clay pipe in his mouth, and hold conversation with his odd friend. Mais, mon cher petit enfant, comment avez-vous passé la journée? Short summer came and went, and mild winter, with its wonderful blanket of white, once more was spread over the land. Sammy had now reached his full growth, and a great beast he was, too, measuring a full 5 feet between the tip of his short black tail and the point of his fine, cold snout. His thick, stout fur coat was a rich brown in color, with a marvelous saddle of gray-white. Powerful legs supported his weight, and he showed teeth of great whiteness and strength. To the dismay of the hunter, Sammy, as the winter advanced, once gentle, now developed a most vicious and uncertain temper. This rapidly grew worse, until even Jean was nervous whenever he bared his great teeth, and the old men of the settlement shook their shaggy heads and muttered that no good ever came from les Diables du Nord. Les Fêtes, or Christmas, went by, and the cold January winds blew with more than wonted velocity around the mud-caked cabins of the settlements. At the close of one short, dreary day, nearly in the New Year, Jean, making his way home from his trap-line, was surprised upon coming in sight of his cabin to see the small window torn away. With anger in his heart, he strode into the hut, for he at once assumed that a thief had broken into his place and robbed him of his toil. Of all crimes in the North, fur-stealing is accounted the most despicable, for the hunter's catch usually represents all that he has in the world. But the sight that met Jean's eyes showed him that this was no human marauder. Pots and pans were overturned, furs torn down from the walls, and in a mass of straw from the bunk was a fine black fox-skin, ripped and torn. The hunter realized that what he had long dreaded had come to pass. The wolverine had heard the call of his native wilds, and true to his blood, he had gone back to his own. But such was the inherent wantonness of the animal, it had torn and destroyed everything within reach, eventually making his escape through the window which had first attracted the trapper's attention. We must leave Jean on the edge of his bunk, with anger and sorrow in heart, surveying the littered floor. Numerous trap stealings soon notified the countryside of the wolverine's escape. Trap after trap was cleaned out by this strange animal, and naturally Tremblay, of all trappers, suffered the most. For a short time, cessation of hostilities lulled the trappers into fancied security. They supposed that after the manner of his kind, new hunting grounds had called him. Suddenly, as a bolt from the blue, came tidings of the finding by a trap of the torn and mutilated body of Joseph Perron. Large wolverine prints in the surrounding snow showed plainly enough that Sammy Carcajou had taken toll of human life. Rendered fierce and wild by the intense cold which had kept rabbits to their holes, Sammy had made eventually a big kill. The long rest that followed was when he was supposed to have left the vicinity. Again, being driven out to hunt by hunger, he had stalked the unfortunate hunter Perron and sprang upon his back as he was bending over a trap. Deep were the imprecations laid upon the name of the savage wolverine, and from that hour every man's hand was turned against him. The winter dragged on its weary way, and the wolverine, still at large, worked havoc with the trap lines. No trap could nip him, no hunter shoot him. He was deemed to bear a charmed life, but the end was not far off. No man swore deeper vengeance than did Jean Tremblay. His former love for his pet had now turned to hate, and ever was he on the hunt for the wolverine. As he sped on his rounds, one cold, clear day, he suddenly heard a crashing through the bushes of some heavy animal. Nearer and nearer it came. Gripping his rifle tightly, Jean bent down under cover, when there suddenly burst into view a large bull caribou. Wild-eyed, panting with fright, it dashed here and there in a vain effort to rid itself of some animal perched on his back. There, with his terrible teeth deep in the heaving shoulders of the caribou, was Sammy Carcajou. Hardly pausing a moment, Jean raised his rifle and fired. The shot was fatal, but so deep were the wolverine's teeth that although the bullet had passed through his brain, he remained on the caribou's back. As the shot rang out, the caribou paused, spread wide his legs, swayed gently, then sank gracefully to the snow, dead. And Sammy's skin today is handled by some furrier in far-off Quebec, who little recks of the tragedy which followed the life of the devil of the northern wilds. End of Call of the Wild Answered.